Good morning, everyone. I'm excited you're here today because I believe God has something special to say to you. And today's message is all about believing when you're not seeing. Now, it's easy to believe when the doors are opening, when the medical report is good, when your bank account is full, when the dream is coming to pass. But real faith, the kind of faith that moves mountains, is when you believe even when you don't see anything changing. When you still praise, when you still smile, when you still keep your head held high, even though every circumstance says you should give up. That's powerful faith. That's when you invite God to do the impossible in your life. The scripture says we walk by faith, not by sight. That means we don't base our faith on what we see happening around us. We base it on what we know is happening inside of us. Just because you don't see the progress doesn't mean God isn't working. Just because you don't see the answer yet doesn't mean the miracle isn't on the way. Let me tell you, when you're believing without seeing, that's when your roots of faith go down deeper. That's when you're building spiritual muscles you didn't even know you had. That's when you're passing the test. And when you pass the test, there's always a promotion on the other side. Maybe today you're praying for your family to come back together, but it feels like the more you pray, the worse it gets. Maybe you're standing for healing, but the symptoms don't seem to improve. Or you're believing for that business to take off, but the doors still aren't opening. Friend, don't be discouraged. What you see with your eyes is temporary, but what God has spoken to your heart is eternal. You may not see anything yet, but your breakthrough is closer than you think. You know, when a bamboo seed is planted, it doesn't break through the ground for 5 years. For 5 years, you see nothing. But underneath the surface, that seed is growing a massive root system, getting ready to shoot up. And when it finally breaks through the ground, it can grow up to 90 feet tall in just a few weeks. If the farmer gave up in year 3 or year 4 because he saw nothing happening, he would miss the explosion of growth. Friend, maybe you're in your year 3, maybe you're in your year 4. You're tempted to give up because you think nothing is happening. But I'm here to tell you, you're closer than you think. Your bamboo season is coming. Your explosion of favor, opportunity, healing, and restoration is on its way. When you keep believing without seeing, that's when supernatural doors open. That's when dreams that seemed impossible suddenly come to life. That's when the God who promises to reward your faith shows up and shows out. Stay in faith. Stay encouraged. Keep declaring victory. Keep praising when you don't feel like it. Keep speaking life even when you're standing in the dark. Because believing without seeing, that's the kind of faith that pleases God, and that's the kind of faith that will change your life forever. Now let me give you 10 key points to hold on to when you're believing, even when you're not seeing. Faith, my friend, is not about having all the evidence right in front of you. Faith is not about looking at your bank account and saying, oh yes, now I can believe God will provide. Faith is not about seeing the healing first and then deciding to trust. Faith is believing before you see it. It's trusting that what God has spoken in your heart will come to pass, even when everything around you says the opposite. When you believe in the invisible, when you trust what you can't see yet, you invite the supernatural into your natural. You pull miracles out of the unseen world into your reality. That's what separates those who live average lives from those who live extraordinary lives of faith. Think about a farmer. When he plants a seed, he doesn't walk out to the field the next morning and expect a full harvest. He doesn't dig up the seed every day saying, oh, well, I don't see anything. Maybe it's not working. He knows that growth is happening under the surface. He waters it, he nurtures it, he protects it, all before he sees a single sprout. And sure enough, in due season, the harvest comes. Faith is like that. You plant the seed with your prayers. You water it with your praise. You protect it with your words. Even when there's no sign of change, you keep trusting, you keep believing, because you know the harvest is on its way. There's a story I love about Thomas Edison. When he was trying to invent the light bulb, he failed over 1,000 times. People laughed at him. They said he was wasting his time. But he famously said, I have not failed. I've just found 1,000 ways that won't work. He kept believing in the invisible. He could see the invention in his mind before anyone else could see it with their eyes. And because he didn't give up, he eventually succeeded. And today we all benefit from his faith in the unseen. Maybe today you're believing for a dream God put in your heart. For it's into you can see it so clearly inside. You can picture the business thriving, the marriage restored, the ministry flourishing, but outwardly nothing has changed. Friend, don't be discouraged. That dream is a seed. It's growing under the surface. Just because you don't see it yet doesn't mean it's not happening. Hebrews 11:1 says, "Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen." Faith is the substance, meaning it's real, it's tangible, even when you can't touch it yet. It's the evidence, meaning you can be certain it's on its way even before you have the proof. Maybe you're praying for a child to come back home, but you don't see any movement. Keep believing. Maybe you're standing for healing, but the medical report hasn't changed. Keep believing. Maybe you're trusting for that promotion, but others keep getting ahead of you. Keep believing. When you believe in the invisible, you give God permission to work miracles behind the scenes. He's lining up the right people. He's arranging divine connections. He's orchestrating opportunities that you couldn't make happen on your own. I think about David in the Bible. When he faced Goliath, all he had was a sling and a few stones. In the natural, it didn't look like he stood a chance. But David wasn't walking by sight. He was walking by faith. He believed in a God he couldn't see. He trusted that the same God who helped him defeat the lion and the bear would help him defeat the giant. And with one stone and a heart full of faith, he brought Goliath down. Friend, you believe before you see. You're stepping into the same kind of miracle territory. You're positioning yourself for giants to fall, for seas to part, for doors to open that no man can shut. You might not see the answer yet, but keep talking like it's on the way. Keep acting like it's already done. Keep thanking God in advance. That's faith. That's what moves heaven. When you believe before you see, you're sending a message to God. Lord, I trust you more than I trust what I see with my eyes. I trust your word more than I trust the circumstances. I believe you are working even when I can't see it. And that kind of faith is irresistible to God. It's that kind of faith that brings breakthroughs, promotions, healings, and miracles. So today, choose to believe in the invisible. Choose to trust even when you don't see the evidence yet. Your faith is not in vain. Your trust is not wasted. God is faithful. And in the right time, what you have been believing for will burst forth into your life for everyone to see. Just like that seed pushing through the soil into a beautiful, undeniable harvest. One of the greatest lessons we all have to learn on the journey of faith is this. Just because something is delayed doesn't mean it has been denied. Just because the door hasn't opened yet, just because the answer hasn't come yet, just because the dream hasn't materialized yet, it doesn't mean that God has said no. It simply means that God is still preparing the right time, the right place, and the right way for it to happen. So often we get discouraged when things take longer than we expected. We live in a society of instant everything, instant messages, instant coffee, instant delivery. We think if it doesn't happen fast, it's not going to happen at all. But God doesn't work on our microwave timetable. He's a master planner. He's the architect of your destiny. And sometimes he's working behind the scenes, building a foundation so strong that when your blessing comes, it won't just be a blessing for a moment. It will be a blessing for a lifetime. Think about Joseph in the Bible. God gave him a dream as a young boy that he would be a leader, that his brothers would bow down to him. But instead of stepping right into leadership, Joseph was betrayed by his own brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused, and thrown into prison. Year after year passed, and it seemed like that dream was dead. But Joseph understood something powerful. Delay is not denial. Even in the prison, he kept serving. Even when forgotten, he kept believing. And at the right time, not a minute too soon, not a second too late, God elevated him from the prison to the palace, and he became the second most powerful man in Egypt. What looked like a delay was really a setup for something greater. Had Joseph gone straight into leadership when he was a teenager, he wouldn't have had the wisdom, the strength, or the character to handle the responsibility. The delay was building something inside of him, a depth, a resilience, a maturity. So when the time came, he was ready to walk in the fullness of his destiny. Maybe today you're feeling frustrated because the promise God put in your heart hasn't come to pass yet. You see other people moving ahead. You see doors opening for them and you wonder, God, what about me? When is it going to happen for me? Friend, let me remind you, delay is not denial. That child you've been praying for, the delay doesn't mean God has forgotten. That healing you've been believing for, the delay doesn't mean it won't happen. That breakthrough, that promotion, that restoration, just because it's delayed doesn't mean it's been denied. God is still writing your story. He's lining up the right people. He's putting the pieces together. And when it all comes together, it's going to be bigger, better, and more fulfilling than anything you could have orchestrated on your own. I think about when you order a package online. After you place the order, you get a confirmation number. You don't sit there worrying if the package is coming. You trust that it's on the way. Even if you don't see it immediately, even if it's delayed in shipping, you know it's been ordered and it's coming. In the same way, when you pray and believe, God gives you a confirmation number, His word. You have His promise. You can stand on it. Even if the shipping is delayed, even if you experience some detours along the way, you can rest knowing that what God promised is already set into motion. One time I was talking to a young lady who had been believing for a scholarship to go to college. She had applied everywhere, waited for months, and all she kept getting were rejections. It would have been easy for her to give up, to think it wasn't meant to be. But she kept trusting, kept praying, kept standing in faith. And would you believe just 2 weeks before classes started, she got a call from a university she hadn't even applied to directly. They had heard about her from another school and offered her a full scholarship, including room and board. Friend, God has ways of working things out that you could never imagine. When you experience delay, don't get discouraged, get excited. It means something greater is being prepared. It means God is positioning you for His very best. If He made it happen when you first prayed, you might have settled for second best. But because He loves you too much to let you miss out on His best, He allows the delay, not to frustrate you, but to prepare you, to mature you, and to bless you beyond your wildest dreams. Remember today, God's delays are not His denials. What He promised, He will bring to pass. It may not happen overnight. You may not see anything changing, but don't you dare give up. Don't you dare let go of your faith, because in the right season, at the appointed time, you will step into everything God has prepared for you, and you'll realize the wait was absolutely worth it. There's something powerful about a heart that refuses to give up. There's something irresistible to God about a spirit that says, I'm not quitting. I'm not backing down. I may not see the results yet, but I'm going to keep believing, keep pushing, keep standing until I see my miracle come to pass. Persistence is the bridge between the promise and the fulfillment. Persistence is what carries you through the silent seasons, the dry seasons, the seasons where you wonder if God even heard your prayer. And I'm here to tell you, friend, your miracle is often hidden right there, tucked inside your persistence, waiting for you to keep moving forward even when everything in you wants to turn around. It reminds me of a story about a gold miner during the California gold rush. He had purchased some land and mined it diligently for months. He dug and dug but found nothing. Frustrated, tired, and broke, he finally decided to give up. He sold his equipment to a junk dealer and walked away defeated. But the junk dealer had a hunch. He called in a mining expert who examined the land and said, the gold is only 3 feet away from where the first man stopped digging. Sure enough, just 3 feet later, they struck one of the richest gold veins in California history. 3 feet. 3 feet short of the promise, 3 feet short of the breakthrough. How many times do we stop believing, stop dreaming, stop pressing in when we are just 3 feet away from our miracle? The truth is, the enemy can't defeat you. He can't take your destiny. All he can do is try to convince you to quit, to give up on your dreams, to walk away from your calling, to stop digging just before you strike gold. But if you'll stay persistent, if you'll keep praying, keep believing, keep speaking life over your situation, you are going to tap into a miracle that will exceed your expectations. I think about the woman in the Bible with the issue of blood. She had been bleeding for 12 years. She had gone to doctor after doctor, spent all her money, tried everything she knew, and yet she only grew worse. But she didn't give up. She didn't accept defeat. She didn't say, oh, well, this is just my lot in life. No, she heard about Jesus, and something rose up inside of her that said, if I can just touch the hem of his garment, I know I'll be healed. Picture her weak, frail, pushing through the crowd. Every step must have felt impossible. Every breath must have been a struggle. But she kept pushing, she kept moving, she kept believing. And when she touched Jesus, instantly she was healed. What if she had stayed home that day? What if she let discouragement talk her out of her miracle? She would have missed the healing that was just within reach. Friend, your persistence matters more than you know. Sometimes the greatest battles you fight are just before the greatest victories you experience. Sometimes the enemy fights the hardest when he knows you're closer than you realize. Maybe today you're tired. You've prayed, you've believed, you've stood in faith, but you don't see anything changing. It's tempting to think, oh, what's the use? Maybe this is just the way it's going to be, but I'm here to encourage you. Keep pressing in. You are closer than you think. Your miracle could be just around the next corner. Your breakthrough could be just one prayer away, one praise away, one step of faith away. It's like running a race. Often the last stretch is the hardest. Your muscles are burning, your lungs are screaming, your body is begging you to stop. But if you can just push through that final stretch, if you can just stay persistent a little longer, you'll cross the finish line and step into victory. Galatians 6-9 says, "Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up." Notice the promise, if we do not give up. If you stay the course, the harvest is guaranteed. I remember hearing about a young man who applied for his dream job. He didn't have all the qualifications. He didn't know anyone on the inside, but he felt in his spirit that God had opened this door. He applied once, no response. He applied again, rejection, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, still nothing. Most people would have given up, but he kept applying. He kept believing. On his 7th application, someone different saw his resume and called him in for an interview. Not only did he get the job, but they later told him that they admired his persistence. It showed them his determination and character. Your persistence is speaking louder than you realize. It's sending a message to heaven that you trust God's timing. It's telling the enemy that you won't back down. It's setting you up for favor, opportunity, and miracles beyond what you can imagine. Today, no matter how tired you feel, no matter how long you've been standing, keep digging, keep pushing, keep believing. Your miracle is closer than you think. And when it breaks forth, you'll look back and be so glad you didn't give up when it was just 3 feet away. Faith isn't tested when everything is going great. Faith isn't built when all the doors are opening, when the finances are flowing, when the prayers are answered instantly. No, faith grows strongest when you're standing in the unseen, when you're believing for things that haven't manifested yet, when you have every reason to give up, but you keep trusting anyway. It's easy to believe when you see it. It's easy to trust when the evidence is right in front of you. But real faith, mountain-moving faith, world-changing faith, that's built in the waiting seasons. That's built when you pray and it feels like nothing's happening. When you step out and it seems like you're walking into a fog. When you speak life over your situation even though every fact tells you otherwise. In those unseen moments, God is strengthening you. He's stretching your faith, growing your endurance, building your character. He's getting you ready for a destiny that's bigger than you could imagine. Think about a seed planted in the ground. When you first put it in the soil, you can't see anything happening. You water it, you wait, you keep tending to it, but for days, maybe weeks, there's no visible sign of life. But underground, something incredible is taking place. Roots are growing, foundations are being set, life is stirring, even though your eyes can't see it yet. If you didn't understand that process, you might dig it up too soon. You might walk away discouraged, thinking nothing's happening. But if you stay patient, if you trust the unseen work, eventually you'll see that little sprout break through the soil. And you'll realize all that waiting wasn't wasted, it was necessary. The same is true in your life. Just because you don't see anything on the surface doesn't mean God isn't working. Just because you haven't seen the healing yet, the promotion yet, the restoration yet, doesn't mean it's not on the way. There's a process happening beneath the surface. Your faith is being rooted deeper. Your hope is growing strong. Your capacity to handle the blessing is expanding. I think about David in the Bible. Before he ever stood before Goliath, before he ever became king, he was out in the fields tending sheep. He was practicing with his slingshot, worshiping God when nobody was watching, trusting in the unseen. When a lion came, when a bear attacked, he didn't have an army backing him up. It was just him and God. And it was in those unseen moments, those hidden battles, that David's faith grew strong. So when the day came to face Goliath, he didn't tremble, he didn't doubt. He said, "The same God who delivered me from the paw of the lion and the paw of the bear will deliver me from this Philistine." Friend, the battles you're fighting in the unseen, the private struggles, the quiet tears, the silent prayers, they're not wasted. They're preparing you for your Goliath moment. They're building a faith so strong, so rooted, that when the pressure comes, when the giants show up, you'll stand firm, unshakable, confident in the God who never fails. Maybe today you're facing a situation where you see no evidence of change. You've been praying, believing, standing in faith, and it feels like nothing is moving. It's tempting to get discouraged. It's tempting to think God has forgotten. But let me encourage you, stay faithful in the unseen. Keep speaking victory. Keep praising when you don't feel like it. Keep sowing seeds of kindness, seeds of love, seeds of hope, even when you don't see an immediate harvest. I heard someone say, faith is believing in advance what will only make sense in reverse. One day you'll look back at this season and say, and now I see it. Now I understand why I had to wait. Now I know why God had to build something deeper in me. I think about an airplane pilot flying through thick clouds. When you're in that plane, you can't see the ground. You can't see the horizon. It feels like you're flying blind. But the pilot isn't panicking. Why? Because he's trusting his instruments. He knows the plane's systems are guiding him, even when he can't see with his natural eyes. In the same way, when you're walking through the unseen, trust your spiritual instruments, God's promises. Trust his word. Trust his character. He's guiding you safely to your destination, even when the path is hidden from view. Hebrews 11:1 says, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. It doesn't say the evidence of things felt or the evidence of things proven. It says the evidence of things not seen. Your faith in the unseen is not weakness. It's your greatest strength. It's the proof that you're anchored to something greater than circumstances, greater than feelings, greater than appearances. So today, hold your head high. Keep watering your dreams. Keep believing for your healing. Keep standing for your family. Because even if you can't see it yet, something powerful is happening beneath the surface. Your faith is growing stronger. Your roots are going deeper. And soon, very soon, you'll see with your eyes what you've been believing for in your heart. And when that day comes, you'll be able to say, oh, look what the Lord has done. It was worth every unseen moment, every tear, every prayer, every step of faith. Sometimes in life, it feels like nothing is happening. You've prayed, you've believed, you've declared the promises of God, but when you look around, it's silent. It's easy to get discouraged in those moments. It's tempting to think, and maybe God isn't listening. Maybe he's forgotten about me. Maybe nothing's changing. But I want to remind you today, just because you don't feel anything doesn't mean God isn't working. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean he's not moving behind the scenes in ways you can't imagine. God is orchestrating things in your favor. Think about a theater production. Before the curtain ever rises, there's a flurry of activity backstage. The props are being set. The actors are getting ready. The lights and sound are being adjusted. The audience doesn't see any of it. They're sitting in the dark, wondering when the show will start. But all that preparation is leading up to the moment when the curtain will rise and the story will unfold. Friend, in your life, it might feel like you're sitting in the dark right now. It might seem like nothing is happening, but behind that curtain, God is arranging the stage for your destiny. He's lining up the right people. He's preparing opportunities. He's working on your behalf in ways you cannot see. I remember hearing about a woman who had been praying for years for her son to come back to God. He had gotten into trouble, drifted far from his faith, and wanted nothing to do with church. She kept praying, kept believing year after year, even when it seemed hopeless. She didn't see any change. In fact, things seemed to be getting worse. But what she didn't know was that God was working behind the scenes. One night, her son hit rock bottom. He cried out to God in desperation, and through a series of unexpected events, he found his way back home and gave his life fully to Christ. What looked like silence was actually God setting up a comeback. What felt like unanswered prayers was actually a divine setup. You may be in a season where it feels like nothing is happening, but don't you believe that lie? God is working in ways you can't comprehend. He's softening hearts you can't reach. He's opening doors you can't see. He's preparing you and preparing your future all at the same time. Sometimes the reason you don't feel anything is because the work is so deep, so intricate, so perfect that it's hidden for a season. But at the right time, God will reveal it, and it will be better than anything you could have orchestrated on your own. When you plant a seed, you don't dig it up every day to see if it's growing. You water it, you trust the process, you believe that even though you can't see it, growth is happening underground. The same principle applies to your dreams, your prayers, your promises. Just because it's buried doesn't mean it's dead. Just because it's hidden doesn't mean it's not happening. Some of the greatest works of God are done in the invisible, in the waiting, in the unseen places where your faith has to be your eyes. Think about Joseph in the Bible. And after he had his dream of greatness, he was thrown into a pit by his own brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused and imprisoned. For years, it looked like nothing was happening. It seemed like the dream was dead. But all along, God was working behind the scenes, positioning him, preparing him, training him. And in one day, Joseph went from the prison to the palace. One moment of divine favor changed everything. And Joseph later said to his brothers, "You meant evil against me, but God meant it for good." See, while Joseph couldn't see it, God was weaving everything together for a purpose. Right now, God is weaving your story. Every setback, every disappointment, every closed door, it's not random. It's not wasted. It's all part of a bigger picture that God is painting with your life. You might only see brushstrokes that don't make sense today, but when the painting is complete, you'll stand back and say, "Oh, wow, God, you knew what you were doing all along." Isaiah 64:4 says, "Since ancient times no one has heard, no ear has perceived, no eye has seen any God beside you who acts on behalf of those who wait for him." Notice it says God acts, not God might act or God sometimes acts. It says God acts on behalf of those who wait for him. That means while you're waiting, he's working. While you're trusting, he's moving. While you're praising, he's preparing something amazing for you. So don't let the silence fool you. Don't let the waiting discourage you. Don't let the unseen shake your faith. Hold on to hope. Keep speaking God's promises. Keep thanking him that he's working even when you can't feel it. Because your curtain is about to rise. Your miracle is about to break through. Your story is about to shift from waiting to winning. And when it happens, you'll be able to say, "It was worth the wait. God was working all along." Everywhere you go, you carry something powerful. You are not just an ordinary person walking into an ordinary situation. You are a carrier of God's presence. When you step into a room, light steps into that room. When you show up at work, peace walks in with you. When you sit at that table, when you walk into that meeting, when you walk through that hospital hallway, the atmosphere has to shift because your faith is alive and active. You see, faith is not just something that benefits you personally. Faith is a force that changes environments. Faith is contagious. It creates ripple effects. Your confidence, your joy, your unshakable belief that God is bigger than the problem. You may not realize it, but it's lifting people. It's inspiring people. It's opening the door for God to move, not just in your life, but in the lives of everyone around you. Sometimes you don't even have to say a word. Just by showing up with your spirit full of hope, full of expectancy, full of trust in God, you shift the temperature of the room. You turn anxiety into calmness. You turn despair into hope. You turn heaviness into lightness and lightness. And it's not because you're special in your own strength. It's because the God who lives inside of you is greater than any darkness around you. I remember hearing a story about a young woman who worked in a high-pressure corporate job. Everyone in her office was stressed out, overwhelmed, snapping at each other. But she made a decision. Instead of letting the atmosphere affect her, she was going to affect the atmosphere. Every morning, she would take a few moments before walking into her building and pray, "Oh Lord, let your peace go before me. Let your favor rest on this place. Let me be a light today." She didn't preach. She didn't carry a big Bible and quote scriptures at people. She simply smiled, she encouraged others, she kept a calm spirit even in the chaos. Over time, her coworkers started noticing. People began coming to her for advice. The office dynamics started to change. The stress didn't have the same grip. Friend, that's the power of one person's faith to shift an atmosphere. You have that same power inside you. You might think, well, I'm just one person. What difference can I make? But one person full of faith is more powerful than a room full of fear. One person speaking hope is more powerful than 1,000 negative voices. One person believing for miracles is more powerful than all the doubt the enemy can throw at you. When David faced Goliath, everyone else was terrified. The atmosphere was filled with fear and defeat. But David didn't let that atmosphere get into his spirit. He didn't catch their fear. He carried his faith. He said, "Who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God?" While others saw a giant too big to defeat, David saw a target too big to miss. His faith shifted the atmosphere from fear to victory. You may walk into situations where people are negative, where people are worried, where people have given up. That's not a sign for you to shrink back. That's a sign for you to step up. That's your opportunity to let your faith shine. That's your moment to speak life, to declare God's promises, to be a living testimony that God is still on the throne. When you shift the atmosphere, you're not just making things more comfortable. You're inviting God to move. You're creating an environment where miracles can happen, where healing can flow, where breakthroughs can take place. God responds to faith when he finds someone who dares to believe, who dares to stand in the gap, who dares to trust him against the odds. He shows up in power. Hebrews 11:6 says, "Without faith it is impossible to please God, because anyone who comes to him must believe that he exists and that he rewards those who earnestly seek him." Your faith pleases God. Your faith invites his reward. Your faith is a magnet for his miracles. So today, decide that you're going to be a thermostat, not a thermometer. A thermometer just measures the temperature. It reflects what's already happening. But a thermostat sets the temperature. It changes the environment. Don't just reflect the negativity, the worry, the doubt around you. Set the atmosphere of faith, set the atmosphere of hope, set the atmosphere of victory. Everywhere you go, carry the spirit of a giant slayer, carry the spirit of a promise keeper, carry the spirit of someone who knows that if God is for you, who can be against you? Let your faith rise so high that it overflows onto everyone you encounter. Because when you walk in power, when you walk in faith, you walk in victory. And when you walk in faith, the atmosphere can't help but shift in your favor. There's something God put inside you that's stronger than anything trying to stop you. It's called resilience. It's the ability to stand when everything around you says to sit down. It's the ability to press forward when it would be easier to give up. It's the determination to keep believing, keep dreaming, keep moving, even when life throws its hardest punches. You may not always feel strong. You may not always feel like you're winning. But the truth is you have a power inside you to outlast every opposition. Think about the palm tree. When a hurricane comes, it's not the tallest trees that survive. It's not the strongest, most rigid trees that make it. It's the palm tree that bends with the storm, that leans with the wind but doesn't break. When the storm is over, the palm tree stands back up, sometimes even taller than before. That's the picture of who you are. Life may bend you, circumstances may try to push you down, but because of the strength God put in you, you are coming back stronger. You are not going to break. You are going to rise higher. Maybe today you're facing an opposition that feels overwhelming. Maybe you're dealing with people who are against you, with setbacks you didn't see coming, with pressure that feels too heavy. But let me remind you, the opposition is not a sign that you're weak. It's a sign that you're significant. The enemy doesn't fight people who aren't a threat. The fact that you're facing pressure means there's greatness inside of you. The fact that you're encountering resistance means you're on the verge of something incredible. When we look at the story of Job, it's easy to focus on the suffering he endured. But the real story of Job is not about his suffering. It's about his resilience. He lost everything: his health, his wealth, his family. People around him told him to curse God and die. But Job said, "Though he slay me, yet will I trust him." In the middle of the worst season of his life, Job held on to his faith. And because he didn't give up, because he didn't let the opposition defeat him, God restored double what he had lost. Friend, the double blessing is on the other side of the resilience. You may feel tired. You may feel discouraged. But I want to tell you today, you are stronger than you think. You are braver than you know. You have more in you than you realize. God wouldn't have allowed that challenge if you weren't equipped to handle it. He wouldn't have let that storm come into your life if he hadn't already put the strength in you to outlast it. Sometimes we pray for God to take away the opposition, and sometimes he does. But other times he doesn't move the mountain. He gives you the strength to climb it. He doesn't stop the storm. He makes you stormproof. He doesn't remove the battle. He makes you a warrior in the middle of it. There was a young athlete training for a marathon. She faced injury after injury. Every time she would get close to being ready, something would set her back. She wanted to quit so many times. It would have been easy to say, "This just isn't meant for me." But deep down, she knew she couldn't give up on her dream. She adjusted her training, she learned from her setbacks, and she kept moving forward. When the marathon day finally came, she didn't just finish, she finished stronger than she had ever imagined. And what she realized later was that the setbacks had actually made her stronger. The injuries had taught her endurance. The challenges had built her resilience. Without the opposition, she wouldn't have been ready for the victory. It's the same with you. The pressure you feel is not there to defeat you. It's there to develop you. Every challenge is strengthening your spiritual muscles. Every delay is deepening your faith. Every hardship is preparing you for the blessing ahead. Isaiah 40:31 says, "But those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint." Notice it says, or renew their strength. That means when you feel like you're out of strength, when you feel like you can't take another step, God promises to pour fresh strength into you. You don't have to do it alone. You're not fighting this battle in your own power. The God who created the universe is backing you up. His strength is made perfect in your weakness, so don't let the opposition make you quit. Don't let the setbacks convince you to give up. Don't let the storm cause you to forget who you are. You are a child of the Most High God. You are more than a conqueror. You are destined to overcome. Keep standing, keep believing, keep trusting, because the victory is already written. The enemy doesn't get the final say, God does. And his word says you will overcome. His word says you will rise higher. His word says you will come out stronger than ever before. So hold your head high. Stay full of hope. Stay full of expectancy. Because your best days are not behind you. They are still out in front of you. And you have the strength to outlast every single opposition. One of the greatest truths we can hold on to in life is this. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean God isn't working. Just because it feels quiet doesn't mean God is absent. Just because your prayers haven't been answered yet doesn't mean God hasn't heard them. Behind the scenes, in ways you can't imagine, the creator of the universe is orchestrating the details of your life for your good. It's a lot like when you go to a theater to see a play. Before the show starts, the curtain is closed. You're sitting in the audience waiting, wondering when something is going to happen. But behind that curtain, there's a flurry of activity. Stagehands are setting the props. The actors are getting into costume. The lights are being adjusted. All kinds of preparation is happening that you can't see. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean nothing's happening. When the time is right, that curtain will open and everything will be ready for the show to begin. That's exactly how God works in our lives. You may be waiting for a breakthrough, believing for a healing, standing in faith for a dream to come to pass. You might not see any evidence yet, but behind the scenes, God is setting things into motion. He's lining up the right people, arranging the right opportunities, moving the pieces into place. At just the right time, the curtain will open and what God has been preparing will be revealed. I think about Joseph in the Bible. He had a dream that he would one day lead, that he would be in a position of influence. But instead of rising immediately to the top, Joseph faced betrayal, false accusations, and imprisonment. Year after year, it seemed like nothing was happening. But during all that time, God was working behind the scenes. He was positioning Joseph, preparing his character, setting up the perfect timing. And when the moment came, Joseph went from the prison to the palace in a single day. What looked like a setback was actually a setup for a greater comeback. Maybe right now you feel like Joseph, you've been faithful. You've been doing the right thing, but it feels like nothing is changing. Don't get discouraged. Don't give up. God is still at work. He's preparing something greater than you can imagine. What you can't see today, you'll look back on one day and realize it was necessary to get you to your destiny. Sometimes it's the waiting seasons that build our faith the most. It's easy to believe when everything is going your way, when the doors are opening, when the answers are coming fast. But real faith says, God, I trust you even when I don't see a way. I trust you even when it feels like nothing is happening. I know you're working behind the scenes for me. Maybe you've been praying for a loved one to change and it seems like they're further away than ever. Maybe you're believing for financial breakthrough, but your situation looks the same. Maybe you're dreaming of starting your business, writing your book, stepping into your calling, but the door hasn't opened yet. Friend, keep believing, keep standing, keep trusting, because God has not forgotten about you. Every prayer you prayed, He heard it. Every tear you cried, He caught it. Every step of faith you've taken, He's seen it. Your faith has not gone unnoticed. Think about a seed planted in the ground. You don't see anything happening for a long time. The soil looks the same day after day. But underground, that seed is germinating. It's taking root. It's getting stronger. And when the time is right, it breaks through the soil and the plant starts to grow. The same is happening with your dreams, with your prayers, with the promises God put in your heart. Just because you don't see anything yet doesn't mean nothing's happening. Nothing's happening. Growth is taking place beneath the surface. Things are moving that you can't see. When you live with this mindset that God is working behind the scenes, you'll have a peace that doesn't make sense. You won't live frustrated. You won't get anxious when things aren't happening on your timeline. Right. You'll stay in faith, knowing that your times are in God's hands, knowing that if it hasn't happened yet, it's because God is still getting it ready, or He's getting you ready. And when it all comes together, it will be better than you ever dreamed. 20 says, now to Him who is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we ask or think, according to the power that works in us. That means God's plans for your life are bigger, better, and greater than you could even imagine. While you're dreaming small, God's dreaming big. While you're thinking about how to survive, God's planning how to make you thrive. So today, stay encouraged. Keep your head high. Keep speaking victory over your life. Keep believing even when you don't see it, because God is a behind-the-scenes God. And when He unveils what He's been preparing, it's going to be more than you asked for, bigger than you hoped, and greater than you dreamed. Get ready, because the curtain is about to rise, and you're going to step into a season of blessing, favor, and fulfillment like never before.